I think one of the more intriguing storylines of the early college football season here in 2023. Oh, I think we've got two of them actually meeting at the same time at the same field on Saturday. So we got Colorado Coach Prime Deion Sanders, whatever you want to call him, whatever he likes to be called, I know. And then we got, of course, TCU coming off a national championship game appearance. So the best person I know of to talk about some TCU football is, of course, Melissa Treebwasser. You can catch her on her podcast, Frogs Insider, also at Dave Campbell, Texas Football. Melissa, how you doing today?
I am doing good. It's finally game week, so we're looking forward to stop talking about everything and actually see what this TCU football team looks like coming off of a national championship game appearance.
Yes, you've got your detractors out there that are like, okay, that was a fluke. Max Duggan's gone. Best receiver, best running back, all that gone. Who are they? What are they going to be long term? But as we like to talk about with you, this has been a pretty successful program for a long, long time, regardless, Gary Patterson, Sonny Dykes. So this is going to be a team to be reckoned with. They're not going to be an easy out for those, would-be contenders in the Big 12.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, if you look at it on paper, I think the rosters at Texas and Kansas State have both the experience and the talent to be considered the favorites in that league. A lot of people believe in Oklahoma and Brent Venables' second year. But if you look at this TCU team, yes, they were replacing a ton of skill talent. They sent 8 guys to the NFL draft. You don't not take a step backwards when you do that. But from a physicality, a talent standpoint, most of the people that have been around fall camp practices will say this team looks different than any TCU team they've seen, not just in the returning players, but in the recruiting class as well. And of course, the transfer portal guys. So while yes, you'd expect them to take a step back, especially on the offensive side of the ball, this isn't a group that's going to have to completely and totally rebuild. You're hoping that you're going to kind of mix and match some parts and still be a very competitive football squad. And if Chandler Morris can be the Chandler Morris that won the job out of fall camp a year ago over Max Duggan, then this should still be a team that can put points on the board and has a defense that's improved from a season ago.
Melissa, is there anything that's happened since we last talked to you at the outset of fall camp, post Big 12 media days, that makes you feel any differently about this team?
Well, I don't want to put too much pressure on a guy that's only been in fall camp for about a week and a half, but the biggest thing was Dalen Wright, the transfer from Minnesota, his former Aggie, 6'3" guy with, probably 4.5 speed. He finally was able to kind of finish up some of his summer coursework and get eligible and join the team. He has another big receiver on the outside that has that speed, that ball control ability to kind of continue to open up that offense. The other thing that's kind of happened too is it seems like Amani Bailey has basically grabbed hold of the starting running back job. Trey Sanders is still going to be an important player for that team, the former 5-star from Alabama, a guy who's recovering from multiple serious injuries, including a car accident that almost cost him his life, let alone his football career. But Amani Bailey is talented, is explosive, has that breakaway speed. He looks like he's going to be a real weapon for the Horned Frogs at the running back position this fall. So, yeah, while a lot of things kind of seem to have settled into place, you're seeing a couple kind of the cream rise to the top, so to speak, especially on the offensive side of the ball. That's given us a lot of excitement and hope about what this team might look like in the first couple weeks of the season.
All right, folks, we're talking TCU football. We got Melissa Treebwasser here from Frogs Insider. That's a podcast that Melissa hosts each and every week. When can people expect that to be downloaded?
So we generally drop that on Monday mornings. That's kind of our recap during the football season. And then we'll have a second midweek podcast. It'll be previewing the upcoming opponent as well as doing some mailbag and different things. So you can usually find us twice a week during football season, Mondays and probably Thursdays, I think, is what we're leaning towards that second one. We'll find out this week whenever I get my work done on that.
And then there's Dave Campbell, Texas football, Dave Campbell, college football. What's the best way to navigate that to find what you want?
Yeah, if you want to get to the Republic of Football College Football Podcast Network, that's an awesome place to not just get TCU information, but information from all of the 14 FBS teams in the state of Texas, which is a really cool thing, one-stop shopping for not just the Power 5 programs, but the UTSAs, the UNTs, all of the great football programs across the state of Texas.
Melissa, when we talk TCU defense, the narrative coming off of 22 that it wasn't very good. I don't necessarily know that was accurate. We talked about looking at more advanced metrics and how this defense performed in situations, very effective in certain situations, red zone and so forth last year. I think there's still a few variations of the Hodge name coming back. Jamoy Hodge Who else am I missing
Johnny
here?
Hodges. Yeah.
Johnny Hodges. And you lose the Thorpe Award winner. So your thoughts about TCU's defense coming back, and for those people checking out TCU Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time, who should we look out for?
Well, I think, you came off of Gary Patterson, who's, known as one of the best defensive minds in all of college football, and the type of program that he built at TCU. They really made their name on the defensive side of the ball for most of his tenure in Fort Worth. But this defense really came on strong towards the end of the season. Yes, they were giving up yards. Yes, they were giving up points, but they were playmakers. They were ball hawks, especially in the secondary. Well, almost the entirety of the secondary comes back, with the exception of the Thorpe Award winner, Travius Hodges Tomlinson. That being said, there are people around this program that think that this unit overall might be better, and would not be surprised to see another Thorpe Award winner and or finalist come from this group. You bring back one of the best cornerbacks in all of college football, in Josh Newton, who benefited being across from Travius Hodges Tomlin a season ago. But now you add Avery Helm, who is another big, rangy, over 6 foot corner, a guy who's a transfer from Florida, who's healthy and has been an absolute standout. You're going to have 2 great elite cornerbacks with size on both sides of the ball. And then in the safeties, you bring back Mark Perry, who's one of the best guys in run support in the conference. Bud Clark, who's just one of those kind of ball hawk playmakers. And one of the biggest stories coming out of fall camp is how Josh Foster's kind of overtaken Millard Bradford at the starting position in the secondary too. That unit is deep. They go 2 to 3 deep at every single position across the field, including cornerback, and they're aggressive. So they are going to give up big plays because they take chances, but they're also going to force a lot of turnovers and be really, really active, engaged, not just in pass protection. But I think I wouldn't be surprised to see those guys kind of sneaking up towards the line of scrimmage a little bit too, making plays in the run game and on blitzes. The biggest story to me is the depth at linebacker. You mentioned Jamoy Hodge and Johnny Hodges, 2 guys who returned that were starters a year ago. Nnamdi Obiezar, who was a safety a season ago, moves down a level defensively. He'll be playing linebacker as well. He's another big 6'3" guy with speed. But you go 3 deep legitimately at a position group that a season ago really only had 4 guys healthy by about the midpoint of the season. They lost 1 guy in fall camp. They lost 2 guys in the first game of the season. So having depth at that position is going to save a guy like Johnny Hodges, who was basically being held together by pipe cleaners and duct tape by the Big 12 championship game a season ago. He's going to be a lot fresher down the line. And then, of course, on the defensive front, there's still a lot of questions. You've got a veteran in Caleb Fox, but you're starting a redshirt freshman, it looks like, at defensive end, and Paul Oyiwale. And then Dominic Williams comes back to starting nose tackle. He's still just a true sophomore. So a lot of youth on that defensive front, a lot of experience in the secondary, and a lot of depth at linebacker. This will definitely be a better defense than it was a season ago, but I don't expect them, to be holding some of these passing teams to 10 or 14 points a game. They're still going to give up points, but I think they'll make enough plays to kind of keep things together for the Horned Frogs as the offense kind of gets into its groove and finds its way.
Now we'll find out once the teams hit the field and start the actual football sets in and the hype goes away, how good Colorado is. Obviously, initially, there are some questions about how quickly a team can gel. There are transfers flying all over the place, but with them, it's maxed about 10 times. And so we'll see if they were able to put together a football team that obviously could be much better in week 10 or 11 than they are in week 1. But the storylines just don't end in this situation. You got a national championship game participant from last year that's reunited with a Big 12 former rival or member of the Big 12 as they kind of cross paths at the same time, entering and leaving the Big 12. And then, and obviously that's going to take place in 2024. You've got Deion Sanders. It's just and there's a reason that Fox has picked up this game to say, hey, we want to headline this game to start our season on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. I mean, for TCU to get to open at home against a Power 5 opponent, one that they played a season ago and that's going to be a part of the Big 12 again, to do it with Big Noon Saturday in town. I'm imagining we'll get an unveiling of the Fiesta Bowl championship banner. I don't know if we'll see national championship participant up on those walls or not, but hopefully that'll happen as well. I think the atmosphere is going to be absolutely incredible. Nobody around Fort Worth, around TCU, seems to be dwelling on the result of that national championship game. People are really, really excited for what this team can do, and I think they see a lot of positive momentum around the program. And so while, yes, like nobody's hiding from that score, nobody's hiding from that result, you will hear the guys and the coaches openly talk about that final score, and they've used it as motivation. It doesn't seem to have impacted the fan base negatively whatsoever. The atmosphere at A. Carter Stadium on Saturday morning is going to be absolutely electric. The atmosphere around Fort Worth has been so positive. There have been so many people coming out to practices, coming out to meet the Frogs, so many scouts in attendance. There is a ton of positive buzz around TCU, despite the fact they were picked to finish kind of in the bottom half of the Big 12 this year. I think a lot of people around the program have a lot of quiet confidence about what this team can do in 2023, coming off that magical run, knowing that, again, you're not just going to replace a Max Duggan, you're not just going to replace a Quentin Johnston, but that the talent has really opened up around Fort Worth. Sonny Dykes brought in great guys. They've got an incredible strength and conditioning staff. People are excited about the offensive sets that Kendall Briles is introducing. Garrett Riley was obviously incredible, but there's not much of a reason to think this team is going to fall off a cliff. Most people believe that while they may take a small step back, the foundation of this program is strong, and we're in for a really nice, successful run like we saw kind of in the best of the Gary Patterson years.
I mentioned that Fox broadcast, the big noon kickoff and all of that. Michigan's a frequent participant in the big noon kickoff, a favorite of Fox. Maybe some Michigan fans will accidentally tune into Fox at noon and see the unveiling of the banner. I don't know.
Wouldn't mind that whatsoever. Wouldn't mind that whatsoever.
All right. Looking at this Colorado team, is there any way to prep for this team? Is a person of the media that always loves to know, I know you do your homework and want to know everything possible. They've got one of the most versatile, talented players in the nation. That was a 5-star number 1 player in the nation coming out of high school a couple years ago. Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders, of course, Deion's son at quarterback, who played for Jackson State. Cormani McClain was a 5-star, one of the top cornerbacks in the country, will probably be paired with Travis Hunter. Just a lot of they have their pockets of top end talent. The complete product may not be there or anywhere close to it at this point, but what have you been able to get out of your Colorado prep?
I mean, it's difficult. You bring in 50 plus guys, you have a completely new offensive system, a completely new defensive system. And the coaches have talked about this. They've tried to watch some Jacksonville State tape. They've tried to watch high school tape of some of these guys. But at the end of the day, it's going to be more about what TCU does, not what Colorado does, I think. And I think that's kind of how the approach has been for the coaching staff. And I mean, I know for me, I'm kind of just going in, I feel about as blind as I've ever been going into an opening game, right? Because there's just so many question marks and so much uncertainty around this Colorado program. And so, I think Shadur Sanders is absolutely electric at quarterback. There's going to be an adjustment jumping up from the level of play, obviously, but Travis Hunter, Cormani McClain, those guys that you mentioned could be playing absolutely anywhere in any program and could be elite talent starters anywhere. So I'm excited to watch Travis Hunter. I think he's going to be a fun one to watch. I'm excited to watch Shadur Sanders, and I'm very excited for the Deion Sanders press conference post game, regardless of the result. Like that's kind of a little bit of as someone who grew up as having Deion Sanders, one of my favorite NFL and baseball players. This is going to be a really fun experience for me. But as far as preparation, I'm just kind of going in excited, like everybody else, to see what TCU looks like and to see if we can start seeing kind of the bones of what Colorado is going to become.
Melissa, have you announced your final TCU record prediction for the season?
I did. I'm not going to I'm having a hard time. As you look at the beginning of the schedule, TCU has a chance to get a couple wins under their belts early. I mean, they've got a pretty soft start, but they have a brutal finish. I am right now I'm going with my optimistic view of, I think TCU is 9-3. There's just some tough games. I think you have to go to the Little Apple, play Kansas State on their home turf. There's going to be a lot of storylines in that game. You've got Lubbock on a Thursday night. You have to host Baylor and Texas in back-to-back weeks, and then you finish with a Black Friday game at Oklahoma. If TCU only drops 3 of those 5, I'll feel really, really good about this season. I think they'll be in contention to make a Big 12 championship as we get into November. But I just think that there's other teams who have such a schedule benefit over the Horned Frogs that ultimately I don't see them making a return trip to Arlington in December. But I do think they'll be right there. They'll play in a great bowl game. They have a chance to finish a 10-win season after the postseason. I think this will be a good TCU football team. They won't take a devastating step back, but I don't think they'll be the elite program that we saw a season ago.
I'm on the record at 8-4.
Yeah, I've been hovering between 8-4 and 9-3. I'm trying to be an optimistic TCU fan, so the boards don't get mad at me. But yeah, 8-4, 9-3, I think would be a perfectly reasonable expectation and a perfectly reasonable season for this program. And then you build on that a season from now. Now you've got things really rolling.
Dave Campbell, college football. Dave Campbell, Texas football. I think the easiest way to do this, folks, is just follow Melissa on Twitter. You see the Coach Melissa right there on Twitter. Follow Melissa. She's a fun follow. I've been following her for a long, long time. Melissa,
one of the originals, Mark.
Exactly. And so, Melissa, have fun on Saturday. It should be I don't know if it's going to be a great game. It will be an interesting game.
It's also going to be 105 on the field by the time this thing finishes off. So, which means it'll feel like 125 on the field. So let's hope that TCU takes care of business early so I can spend the second half in the press box.
Yeah, and keep the clock rolling.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Melissa. We'll see you.
Thanks, Mark.